Hey guys, it's Joathan here, back with another MMA commentary video. Today we are going to be post-analyzing the UFC Fight Night Kamaru Usman versus Dricus Duplessis main card. We're going to be going over the brief things that I got right and the long list of things that I just completely missed. And we're going to be going over why I missed them. So let's start off with the only thing that I seem to get right on this card, which was Tommy McMillan versus Alberto Montes. I predicted McMillan was going to get it done by a round 3 TKO or knockout, and he followed through with what I thought he would. I did believe that Mitch was going to give him a lot more trouble than he did. I thought he was going to keep him relatively at range with the legs, and that it was just going to be difficult for Tommy to close the distance. However, this didn't prove to be true. Montes got outstruck almost 5 times over in terms of landed strikes and significant strikes, and somehow also got controlled for almost a minute, which I know over 15 minutes-ish isn't supposed to be a lot, but for a guy who's whooping you in the striking, that's pretty significant that you can't seem to gain momentum at all. McMillan was excellent in the boxing today with that long frame, the reach advantage, and the hot streak. I believe he's up to 11-0 now. It makes sense. I didn't see any way that Tommy wasn't going to win against Alberto anyways, besides the possibility of a decision. And it did get kind of close, but as I predicted, Alberto's defense did begin to kind of wilt away towards the end, and eventually enough shots slipped through, and the violence and pressure that McMillan brought ended up losing it for him. As we move further and further down the line of how wrong I was about this card, we have Tabitha Ricci and Fatima Klein. I did think Klein was going to win, so I will give myself that. However, I predicted a round 1 KO after backtracking on my initial decision win. I thought that Klein was on enough of a hot streak and that she was just a much higher level fighter than Ricci, which she was. However, she didn't show anything very explosive throughout the fight. She won quite definitively each round. Very good control, distance management was good, and an overall just great pressure and presence in the cage. But I expected a bit more kind of a star power knockout, and I just didn't get it this fight. And I should have watched more tape on them. I admitted that I wasn't really too caught up on the women's divisions in general. However, Klein still did get the W in a very, very decisive victory. So that was nice to be right about. And here begins the downfall of my last video. We have Chase Hooper and Mitch Ramirez in what I thought was going to be a big rebound fight for Ramirez. I thought that the leg reach and his overall striking was better than Hooper. I personally had a very personal idea of Chase, and I didn't think he was that good. I thought he was a lot of hype. I thought he wasn't the fighter that he showed he was in the cage, and that's my bad. He displayed very brief quality striking. However, it was mainly to set up that lengthy takedown, to say the least. I've never seen such a use of long limbs in grappling in MMA, such as Chase Hooper that night. Otherwise, what was a very quality takedown, and continued to scramble with Ramirez until he took his back very quickly and set up a rear naked choke that was able to sink in for a tap before he even got the lock on, which is incredible to see. Very strong grappler, which I underestimated last time, but Chase was able to pretty confidently take this win, and looking back at it, I should have saw it. However, Chase Hooper is going to get tougher matchups from now on. because this was a rebound fight for him as well. He was on a losing streak, and he didn't want to get cut. And the UFC didn't want to cut him. So we'll see where he goes from here. And to what was somewhat disappointing for me, we have Jared Cannonier and Christian Leroy Dungan. I had Cannonier by decision. I had this because I thought Cannonier's experience, being 42 years old, was going to be enough to game plan and strategize around Leroy's aggressiveness. And in the first round, it looked like that was very wrong. And it was. But we know Cannonier thrives in later round situations. He struggled initially off Robocop, and rounds 3, 4, and 5 with him went very well. But I don't think they had enough time for Cannonier's better gas tank to take a lot of effect, especially since CLD decisively won those first few rounds. So aggressively. He was beating the brakes off Jared. I thought Jared's power was going to be enough to deter him, catch some counters, and that, Christian wasn't going to be able to find the space. But he truly is a great athlete. And like the coaches have said, it would be nice for him to settle down a little bit. I find that he probably would have put Cannonier away in round 2, maybe, if he settled down, threw a bit more down the middle, and only went to the spinning when he picks up a cue that they're coming off center. But back to why I was wrong. Jared simply did not have the vitality to keep him away for long enough. Although Jared had 6 minutes of control time, the quality of control at times could be questionable. A lot of it came from weaker clinch positions and dynamic areas that may not have truly actually been control, but again, it counts in the scar cards. If this fight was a main event for whatever reason, I think Cannonier could have came away with this, but Christian had such a sizable lead with the first 2 rounds that by the time Jared finally started to catch up to him and take true dominant positions, it was too late, and Jared doesn't have the power at this point in his career to put someone like him away. Now on to the disappointment of the night. For me, at least, a lot of people were voting for Dricus, and that makes sense, especially since he beat the brakes off of Kamaru Usman. I predicted that Usman was going to control him for all 5 rounds, which was an error in my last video. I meant 5, not 3 rounds. However, it doesn't really matter, because Kamaru was absolutely demolished in the striking. Maybe my prediction rings true for a younger Kamaru, but once again, just like the last fight with Cannonier and CLD, I predicted that age was going to be a much less negative factor for the older fighter, and that wisdom and experience was going to be enough to overcome that gap. However, that's simply not true at this point. I think Kamaru, he's too old, and that is why he looks so slow. I don't think the skill's gone. I think the wrestling would have been there if he could have gotten a hold, but Dricus did such a good job deterring him from grappling at all with that vicious knee in the second, those amazing kicks from what we've seen, or at least compared to what we've seen from Dricus. It was a very hard fight for Kamaru, and he fought very, very well. I was surprised at his chin, and if MMA fights went longer, once again, maybe the gas tank holds up and he gets control, because he started to gain momentum in the 4th, 5th round. But Dricus he held onto it so well. A lot of anti-wrestling, and he seemed to have the reach advantage despite not having a reach advantage. He managed his distance much better in the beginning, and Kamaru just looked very slow. Despite him having an amazing chin for this fight, he just looked very sluggish, and by the time he finally got enough rhythm, Dricus had decisively won the fight. It really wasn't too close, and I don't think we're going to see Kamaru again, or at least Kamaru making a actual return, maybe finishing out his contract, but I don't see a long-term Kamaru Usman in any UFC division. Dricus, however, just maybe, may climb back up the middleweight rankings and get another fight with Sean. Or I kind of like this route, Paulo Costa type route, go up to light heavyweight and test his frame there, because he is huge in the middleweight division. So that about wraps up this video. Thank you guys for sticking around and checking out my channel. I hope to cover the next UFC Fight Night with Ankalaev and Khalil Roundtree. I will see you guys next time. Remember, stay safe, have a great day, and can keep getting better. See you guys next time.